This morning, Amazon Games dropped the newest development updates and patch notes for a new world titled the Empress of Ebonscale Reach. The first part of the notes talk about the new zone, titled Ebonscale Reach, which will be available to players leveled 51 and above. It is East Asian themed and will feature lush wetlands, majestic waterfalls, and stunning architecture. The zone will also feature new enemies such as the Corrupted Dynasty Musketeers, Heavies, Warriors, Spear Captains, Summoners, and Maidens, as well as Tigers and Corrupted Tigers. The patch notes also detail the new expedition, Garden of Genesis, which will lead players into the birthplace of the Angry Earth. The location of this expedition will be in the northwestern part of the crater in Eden Grove, and players must complete 2 quests before entering the expedition. The Garden of Genesis will feature 2 boss encounters, the Caretaker and the Blighted Greenskeeper. For general updates, the first version of the Outpost Rush, which is the 20 vs 20 endgame PvP mode, has been added, and there will be more information on the Outpost Rush in their next development update next month. The main story quests updated through level 40, and the English voiceover for the main story quests and starter beaches have been added to the game. They've also added new armor and weapon quests, which will become available to players at level 40. They've also noted that these items will not be in contention for best in slot, so as not to hurt the market for endgame crafters. I think that is super important, and I'm really glad that is news. The armor quest will be a quest chain consisting of 5 child quests or subquests, which will guide the players to forge each piece of armor in this set. Each successive quest requires a new player level threshold starting at 40 and going in increments of levels of 5 up to level 60. Unique quest recipes with no skill requirement are given for each armor item. Players can craft the item after gathering the requisite ingredients. I can see that being especially helpful for players who are not super interested in crafting but still would like the gear, since they won't actually need to level up any crafting skills at all to create these items. Similarly, for the weapon quests, the quest lines will feature 3 child quests or subquests to gather materials and forge a weapon, and I am assuming, since they did not explicitly state it, that there will not be any skill requirement to craft these weapons. For progression updates, they have reduced the amount of XP required to level up between levels 8 and 60 by 10%, and they have also reduced the amount of XP received from PvP missions by 5%. Players will now receive diminishing returns on experience for defeating weaker creatures, 40% for creatures 10 to 19 levels below the player, and 80% for creatures 20 levels or more. Enemies that are much higher level than you now present a skull icon at 10 levels higher rather than 6. For loot and gear, weapons are more likely to drop with relevant stat bonuses, so that means no longer rolling strength on ranged weapons. They also have increased the chance of items to drop with gem slots to match the chances of rolling other perks, and there are now more named items in the game that will drop from expeditions. Post level 10, all quest reward containers will feature an item of at least uncommon rarity, and chests will now drop more loot. All equipable items are now bind on equip or bind on pickup, which is major news for the health of the item economy in the game. In the news for crafting, they have increased the drop rates for rare resources and adjusted the crafting requirements for items to compensate. They have also added the feature to apply specific attribute rolls to an item while crafting, which takes a certain amount of RNG away. These modifiers will drop from a variety of sources and have certain restrictions to ensure balance. Secret ingredients in the ingredient selector have been unmasked, so you'll now be able to see how various rare resources can be used even if you do not have them yet. There are new fishing objectives and rewards, including fishing armor and special poles. Fish fillets will also now have rarities, and fishing projects have been added to territory projects. For user interface updates, the inventory has been updated. It will now feature a full character view, more convenient layout, equally sized icons, and explicitly displayed load numbers. In the news for combat, potions now have a cooldown that is shared amongst potions of the same type, meaning that health and mana potions would not share the same cooldown. The block angle has also been doubled to 180 degrees from 90 degrees, so that blocks are more accurately accounted for. Attributes have received a minor rework, as well as increasing the amount of damage scaling per point invested. They have also tuned dual attribute weapon scalings to make them more competitive and equal to single attribute weapons. Armor types now scale in armor ratings, from light having the lowest to heavy having the highest. Each armor class will have 3 types of armor distribution: physical, elemental, and balanced. The amount of armor shields provided has been slightly nerfed, as well as their weights have been standardized across tiers. There are changes to equip load bonuses across the board. Light and medium loads get a damage bonus, medium and heavy get a duration bonus for crowd control. Accuracy, grit resistance, and stamina modifications have been removed. Block bonus has been nerfed for heavy loads, and the stamina cost for dodges for light and heavy loads. Grit has received some changes as well. While Grit is active, your abilities cannot be interrupted, though you will still take damage. This means that you can die while Grit is active. Grit has also been removed from several abilities. Weapon mastery lines now have 38 mastery choices, increased from 32, which provides more options in your build. Swords receive buffs across the board, ranging from increased damage to shorter animations, to increased threat generation and damage reduction for the shield counterpart. Hatchets have been reworked, with many abilities being scrapped and the introduction of new ones, a large change here being the throwing line mastery, which includes several new abilities like social distancing, which allows you to create space between you and your foes while inflicting damage. Rapiers receive some minor quality of life updates regarding abilities canceling auto run, dodging, or unnecessarily long animations. Great Axes have been tweaked to be more in line thematically, with damage bonuses added to several abilities that proc when damaging low health enemies. This also includes increased healing or lifesteal from damaging enemies near death. Warhammers have many of their ability animations sped up, as well as the rate you can use light attacks. A lot of quality of life improvements here. Spears had some abilities replaced with new ones, and some damage increases across the board. Some abilities did have minor damage nerfs, but nothing major. Most of the CC applied by Spears has been cut as well. Bows have several newly added passives, which flesh out this build path a little more to equate it to some of the melee weapons. Overall balancing has been applied respectively to components of the musket build path, but nothing especially eye-catching here in terms of major changes. Fire staffs have been fleshed out more, including damage buffs, mana sustain, and reward consequences for mana use. For example, a damage buff for remaining above 50% mana. Life staffs also receive buffs to their healing, as well as increased functionality for the healer role. I'm really glad that most of the ranged weapons in the game are now getting fleshed out more, since in the past few months they've been kind of lacking. Overall, these updates are huge in terms of improvement and balance in the game. It is a huge step forward in the right direction. The amount of progress that has been made in the past several months of development has been fantastic, and is quite the difference since last year's preview event. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe if you would like to see more.